Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Ages of Apocalypse. Last week we saw Wolverine as part of a very different Fantastic Four in a world with barely any heroes left. Today we return to the X-Men proper, at least some version of it, as we look at X-Men Unlimited number 26. The cover groups the team together, with some of them in different costumes, like Phoenix's color scheme changing to yellow and red, a newcomer in the center, and Cable's got a new shiny gold robot arm. He didn't need a new arm, but it was late at night, he'd had a few too many beers, and he just couldn't find the remote when QVC came on. If you ask me, the spikes running down it seemed pretty impractical, but maybe the artists just thought they really added something. Written by Joe Pruitt and Brett Booth, with art by Sal Regla, Rick Ketchum, Scott Koblish, Matt Hicks, and Jessica Ruffner, we begin on the moon, with narration noting how mankind's drive to explore space for intelligent life intensified after the turn of the millennium, sending out unmanned ships. But for all man's vanity and arrogance, there was one situation that man failed to anticipate: sentient life finding man. Playing hide-and-seek across the galaxy is apparently too confusing. No one knows who's actually it. While this is very dramatic, it's also kinda stupid, since this is the Marvel Universe, and they've been contacted, invaded by, or just met with aliens before. Nerd! As spacecraft close in on some kind of structure, we get a 2-page spread of the X-Men fighting off some Shi'ar troops. And yeah, only 3 of them are named, and I don't know why those captions are on the wrong mutants. Storm is hidden behind narration, with her name over Phoenix, whose own name is placed next to her son, Cable. Were things just really hectic one day at Marvel, or was this someone's first day in comics? Cable, whose arm is now chrome, because I guess he can just change the color of the techno-organic virus constantly attacking his body, lectures Iceman about some enemy soldiers approaching on his right flank. Though it looks more like it's on his left, but anyway. Bobby cites the fact he has 3 purple hearts, proving his battlefield experience. Bobby got his start by refreshing his fellow soldiers as the Army's first official Slurpee machine. His platoon was known as the Fightin' 7-Elevens. He sets up an ice wall that Rogue smashes through, creating large chunks of ice to fall on their opponents. Most of the next page sees Storm and Jean flying side by side, with the telepath mentioning that their foes seem to be psionically shielded, learning from past encounters with the X-Men, be they good or bad. That's when relative new teammate Siphon launches an attack, firing red optic energy, even though it was blue just a few pages ago. But it's the current color that reminds Jean of her dead husband, still hurting after several years, and she doesn't seem to want the pain to go away. A large energy blast hits near half the team, with Wolverine suggesting they've brought out the big guns, and it looks here like his claws were mistakenly not colored in. There are so many coloring mistakes in just the first few pages. They're kinda minor, and I don't want to think it's something to shame the artists over, but I'm wondering if Beast is going to show up covered in red fur. The aforementioned big guns are from the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, who are in designation, much like during the 12. Ahab is famine, Caliban is pestilence, though now he's driven to revenge by his loved ones who were slaughtered, and Deathbird as war, who, having killed Lilandra, is now Shi'ar Empress. Filling in as Death is Eric the Red, who has some beef against the X-Men and goes after Wolverine specifically, as he'd renounced his rank as Horseman. Deathbird calls for the mutants' surrender so they can die quickly, just like she's about to do to Drake, but Storm defiantly, I guess, knocks her down with some wind. And this scan seems to have accidentally included some line art from a previous page of Siphon using her powers. Just wow. Anyway, Deathbird's okay with fighting them to the death, but Phoenix and Cable show up, who hold her partially responsible for Scott Summers' death. Elsewhere, in what appears to be a makeshift infirmary, Moira McTaggart and Dr. Cecilia Reyes are looking after Marrow and another patient, waiting for an airlift to get them to safety. Wait, it's on the moon. Wouldn't it be spacelift? Anyway, just as Gambit asks about Marrow's condition, Ahab blasts open a wall, joined by Caliban and several Shi'ar soldiers. We're who the hospital sends when you don't have insurance. Dr. Reyes, using her own mutant powers, generates a shield to protect them from attack, until Excalibur arrives to lend aid, with Kitty Pryde apparently in command, and Nightcrawler with a snazzy new beard. So maybe this future isn't so bad after all. As Piotr takes on Famine for apparently killing their friends Rain and Megan, Shadowcat tries talking Caliban down. Why she thought rolling her eyes back would help, I don't know.
I had an idea to do a bit where I was going to roll my eyes back and talk like an obnoxious, belligerent teenager, but clearly that's not going to work. I can't pass for a teenager.
Captain Britain tells her not to waste her breath, since Pestilence seems to have gone all in on the strong destroys the weak mantra of their new master. That's when narration, still third person, speaks from Kitty's perspective, in a way, as the battle rages on. How she was a young girl when she joined the X-Men, is now a confident adult, has overcome many hurdles with her team, friends became enemies, enemies became allies, like Sabretooth here apparently. Though one constant is that the X-Men are a family, brought together by a dream of peace, and are always there for one another in battle or grief, and when Miss Pryde draws her last breath, she wants it to be the same as how she lived, as a hero and an X-Man.
Though if this family decided to take in Sabretooth, don't be surprised if he's the cause of death. I bet the Psylocke of this future was just thrilled when he joined up. She probably helped Logan throw him a welcome party.
More poison? Tea?
Death seems to overpower Wolverine, only for Iceman to set him up for a twin assault by Rogue and Siphon, though it allegedly isn't slowing him down much. Banshee informs Storm that Excalibur is all the reinforcements they're gonna get, though up against all the Shi'ar soldiers and the Horsemen, it might be a good idea to retreat. The Wind Rider doesn't care for that idea at all, so Cassidy decides to do something he did once to save Japan, which nearly killed him and left him without his powers for a while. He uses his sonic scream to his maximum, past the point his throat is searing with pain, until the enemy's aircraft are all destroyed. Exhausted, he falls into Storm's arms, a heroic act that was not very well portrayed if you ask me. We see one panel of him and some ships, he grasps his throat, then Sean fall down go boom. No effect of his power resonating, and they only show a couple of damaged ships, mostly off panel.
The narration boasts about the measure of a hero being one's deeds, and how truly noble this act is, but the visuals don't seem to match the kind of epic tension I think we're supposed to be feeling. If anything, it underplays something that's supposed to be much more serious.
The X-Men secure the infirmary, with more and more soldiers showing up, and this fight is looking like it could be the X-Men's last. As Rogue flies in, Siphon and Bobby, Logan, seemingly defeated, is thrown in among them by the Horsemen, with plenty of faceless Shi'ar soldiers to back them up. So did Rogue and Siphon just leave Wolvie to fight Eric the Red Death for some reason, or what? For not being fit enough to survive, they're sentenced to death, until Storm suggests they look behind them.
I'm 100% completely serious! You've got to turn around right now before it's too late! Huh? Sucker!
Converging on the moon is an army of Skrulls, led by Charles Xavier. As his green buddies deal with the Shi'ar, Chuck tells Deathbird he no longer has any pity left for her, after she's devoted herself to a madman and killed his space girlfriend Lilandra. Bird Lady's only regret was that Baldy wasn't there to witness it himself. Maybe it wasn't the tipping point, but it probably didn't help her, since Xavier decides to do to her what he'd done to Magneto, a massive mind wipe, foregoing the vow he made to never use such a technique again. Death, who wasn't just hit with a mental blast, shrugs it off, saying that Deathbird is already recovering.
Look, she's already back on her feet and totally unaffected. And over there, our soldiers have killed all your X-Men. And over there, an ice cream stand with a sign that says, "Horsemen eat all they want for free. Anything's possible when you say it's happening off-panel."
He gets stabbed from behind by Wolverine, and I feel like there was supposed to be some weight to this conflict, but there really wasn't. So much for securing the infirmary, because Ahab and Caliban are still within mere feet of Moira and Marrow. Kitty defends them and takes an energy shot to the shoulder, and that sets Caliban off. Me, I'm just wondering what happened to Gambit. Even though he defended the whole survival of the fittest spiel earlier, seeing the young woman he had a crush on once get hurt has him turn on his fellow horsemen, lifting Famine over his head. Deathbird decides to judge him, blasting him for his treachery. That's when hundreds of Shi'ar war cruisers arrive, though we only see a few of them and half of them are off-panel. Jean enlists Mastermind, this one being the daughter of the original, to help her send them off. by projecting Jean as the Dark Phoenix once again, in all her fiery, galaxy-destroying glory, telling the bird people to leave and never return.
Just in case, they should put up some signs around their sector of space that reads, "No solicitors, invaders, or conquerors."
The Shi'ar buy into it, and quickly fly off to protect their homeworld, while the horsemen, half of them incapacitated, can only retreat, teleporting away as Deathbird threatens the X-Men with, well, death when their conflict resumes. Charles then goes on this long speech about how well the X-Men have done, but victory is still far off to save humanity, mutant and non-mutant alike. They know the adversity ahead, and the Prof expects that, in the inevitable forthcoming death and suffering, some of his students won't make it to the end of their war alive.
This is why we don't let you do graduation speeches anymore, Chuck.
Side note, did Siphon eat a case of protein powder and do some serious bench pressing in between panels? I don't remember her being that buff or that tall before. Anyway, Xavier goes on that not just Earth is in their hands, but its future as well, one free from a madman's doctrine, and the comic ends on a wide shot of the moon, the sun barely gleaming across it, as the professor swears the X-Men will be there in mankind's hour of need, to stand victorious or die trying.
And now you know why I had you sign those waivers when you joined the team. That was X-Men Unlimited number 26, a story that was playing pretty fast and loose, even for a battle on the moon between aliens and mutant superheroes.
It can be given leeway for some things not getting more context, like why and how the team has a facility on the moon, or them letting Victor Creed join up. Some things can be safely assumed, like the Shi'ar merely following Deathbird, and thus Apocalypse's orders, and that fighting off an interstellar invasion force on the moon is smarter than on Earth. It is set in a near-future alternate reality that Apocalypse is secretly manipulating, so not everything needs detailed explanations. But several of the fights are seen very briefly, then left, characters just kind of jumping around with little consistency, things needing to be told through dialogue or narration that would have more impact or meaning if they were clearly shown, as well as things just happening to move the story along.
There is no moral to this story.
Exactly. It's just a bunch of stuff that happened.
The Amalgam comics I've reviewed have a very similar premise, and most of them felt more solid when merging characters from different companies. And one of them was a crude bounty hunter duck with screwed up proportions.
Though I will say I did like most of these new costumes the characters have. They seem to have a kind of balance between the newness of a fresh costume and evoking a previous suit. The art was mostly okay, but hurt by so many coloring errors. Cable's metal arm, Jean's costume before that Dark Phoenix illusion, and Siphon's blast changing color here and there, the glow from Nate's eye being colored the same as his skin, and just a really weird goof of an outline from one page showing up a couple pages later. Like I said earlier, there must have been quite the commotion at Marvel when this was being put together. Another frequent goof-up was the placement of some dialogue bubbles. They looked like they were supposed to rest against the edges of panels, but were moved over a bit to the side or too far down. Heck, this one has the outline of Xavier's head.
But maybe we're supposed to blame Apocalypse for messing with time and space and so forth, making this entry so sloppy. Not an excuse that'll be valid for long, since next week we look at the last installment. I'm the Angry Spork, and man have I got issues.